someone the other day about work, and I don't consider it work being here because I love each and every one of you and the opportunity to participate on the journey of taking care of ourselves and keeping ourselves well and as healthy as possible. And as a chiropractor, we focus on structure, and that's our emphasis is placed on keeping the body structurally functioning as efficiently as possible, reducing your stress levels, and allowing your nervous system to have good expression. And I know we spoke about the parasympathetic and sympathetics the last time you were out here. And we have a fantastic guest speaker, Dr. Leonard Smith, who's been a surgeon for many years. And he also works with the University of Miami and is working with the residents there, I believe, and teaching them holistic methods of healing and wellness from the inside out. And as always, really understand that the best doctor is the one that's already inside you. As a chiropractor, as I've said many times, I don't heal you. Your body heals itself. My job is to bring about better balance and improve knowledge and hopefully help you lead a better quality of lifestyle and invest in your health, because sometimes we tend to look at health expenses, and I kind of like to think of it as an investment. When you eat better and you exercise and you take time out of your life to do things that are going to promote better physiology and better health, overall health, those are investments that we make. And sometimes we don't look at it that way. We look at it as a sacrifice. But we flip that mentality as a health investment rather than a sacrifice or a cost, because your health, your future health, is largely dependent, not totally, but largely dependent upon action steps you take early on. And most disease that plagues so many people really is the result of chronic neglect and things that have taken place in such small increments over such long periods of time, and to the point where you come in and you say, "Doc, I can't turn my neck," and that happened over years and years and years. So understanding that taking small action steps, I think, is critical. And sometimes the littlest thing you can get from this workshop, sometimes the smallest little adjustment in your lifestyle can have a profound effect on you. Something as simple as magnesium in your diet, for some of you, can make a really profound effect in how you sleep and how you have bowel movements and how you function in general. So listen to what Dr. Smith has to say. I guarantee you're going to learn a lot of information. And thanks a lot. Let's give him a nice welcome to the office.
I was a surgeon for 35 years. I'm not doing surgery currently. I'm medical advisor for the University of Miami's integrated medical program. And that's a miracle in itself that we're even in there able to do this, which is, we've got like...
Which one do you want to advance in that one?
Okay. What do I want to do with this one? Put it back down?
Give it back to me. You'll turn off the machine. This one, if you're fed up with it, you just hit this one.
So, yeah, we've got about 150 medical students, residents, faculty, practitioners from the community that are in this ongoing program there now, and I'm pleased to say this is the first place that the Institute for Functional Medicine has really put their program into, and it's really basically about teaching practitioners how to do exactly what Damien was saying, what I'll be talking about here shortly. And so we'll go ahead and start some of the slides. Now, this PowerPoint you can put on there, and if anybody, as far as I'm concerned, has a thumb drive or is interested in having a copy of it, it's free as far as I'm concerned. This is a compendium of a bunch of different stuff, and there's way more slides on here than I'll even attempt to get to. A lot of them are self-explanatory, some of them aren't. But I really enjoy having the mainstream interested public have a real grasp on health and nutrition, the science of nutrition and health, and how to keep yourself healthier. The truth is, unfortunately, so many doctors don't really have that. They didn't learn it, they don't have time to learn it now. And there are two kinds of medicine very clearly, just like Dr. Damien was saying. You've got the acute care medicine, and that is like you're bleeding to death, you've been run over by a truck or something, and you really want to get to somewhere like Jackson's Trauma Center. It's your only chance of surviving. But that's only about maybe, 10 to 20% of the population, 10 to 20% of the time. The other 80% are the walking wounded with chronic medical problems, and our system just has not figured out what to do with that. In my lecture, I generally get people's attention by saying we have the worst healthcare system maybe we're probably not even in the top 20 as a healthcare system.
47.
47,
Wow.
he says. We do have the best sickness care system.
Number one.
Right. So this is where this big gap is, and I think it's up to the public. You know, medicine is a business like everything else, and the public gets what they want. And the better educated you are, the more you understand this, the more you ask your doctors for this information. That's how I got started. 1981, I was in private practice in Gainesville, and patients kept asking me, well, what do I think about vitamin C, and what do I think about a vegetarian diet? I said, I don't think anything about any of them because nobody ever taught me. But literally back then, which has now been 30 years ago almost, more than 30 years actually, I started embodying this as part of my surgical practice. And I could definitely tell patients got better to whatever degree they could follow it. It's a science just like anything else. So some of this I'll go over very quick, some of it I'll go slowly on. A lot of it's just to give you an idea of what you're looking at. But this one I love. This is, I don't know who Wayne Fields is, you got this off the internet, but apparently this is on the wall of some building in England from a couple of hundred years ago. So there's really nothing new in the universe. And this says, the best 6 doctors anywhere, no one can deny it. There's sunshine, water, rest, and air, exercise, and diet. These 6 will gladly you attend if only you are willing. Your mind will ease, your will will mend, in charge you're not a shilling. And there's profound truth in this, if you stop and think about it, you know, whether exercise is now being shown to be probably the most amazing anti-inflammatory thing you can add to your life. Diet is obviously critical. Hippocrates said it, and I got a slide in here somewhere. Let your food be your medicine, let your medicine be your food. We all forget about it from time to time. It's a totally emotionally embedded thing to eat whatever tastes good and feels good in the moment. Not what you really need to do is whatever tastes good now, if it makes you feel good tomorrow, it's something to add to your program. If it doesn't, then you need to think about minimizing it. And I don't tend to be a food Nazi where I'm beating on people about you gotta do this, you gotta do that. But everybody's an experimental one, and you really need to find out what works for you and be intellectually honest enough to know, do I really feel better a day or two after eating something that, and a lot of you won't even know unless you do food sensitivity testing, and Dr. Damien's got that available here now. With food sensitivity testing, you really get an idea of what you got low-grade sensitivities to, and by eliminating those, even for a month, and then adding them back slowly, you may be able to eat them periodically. So that's part of the science of all this. So we'll keep moving a little faster than that. So here's a very simple example of the combination of science and food. This sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook. It looks like biochemistry, and it is. 8-OHDG, it stands for 8-hydroxydeoxyguanosine. That is something that's in the DNA of your cells. And everybody has cells, you know, the cells of your body kind of look like a fried egg, where the white, sunny side up egg, where the white part would be the cytoplasm, the yellow thing in the middle is the nucleus, and in the nucleus you've got DNA. It's the message of your life. Well, if you've got, we've all got low-grade inflammation going on all the time in all parts of your body. As long as it stays low-grade, you're okay. But you actually can show by measuring in the blood this marker that even the inflammation is burning and chipping away at your DNA. So the higher your DNA is, these DNA markers are in your blood, the more you're damaging your cells. So what they found was that, yeah, everybody's got a low dose, but you don't want to have a high dose of this. Well, this is right out of a journal called Carcinogenesis. The effect of increased fruit and vegetable consumption on markers of oxidative cellular damage. So the very process of taking food and making energy creates a fire. And that fire comes out of mitochondria, which are the little engines in the cells that make the energy. If you've got too much of that fire, you start burning things you don't mean to burn. It's like having the stove too hot, you burn something next to the stove. So what happens is the consumption of a diet that significantly increases vegetables and fruit from a diverse number of botanical families results in significant reductions in markers of oxidative cellular damage to DNA and lipids. So this was a study that took 30-year-old women. They were taking they reportedly ate 5 helpings of fruits and vegetables a day. They did an AOHDG level in the blood. Then they had them go up to 10 to 12 helpings a day for a month and repeated it, and it statistically significantly really dropped. Most of those that weren't doing the 5 helpings. But even on those that were doing the 5 helpings, but more than doubling it, they markedly reduced the damage through DNA. So just that simple. It's just crazy, something that simple to be that profound. So what were they eating? Just take a look here. Kiwi, mushrooms, spinach, Swiss chard, beet, artichoke, endive, lettuce, sweet potato, cabbage, broccoli, radish, cucumber, zucchini, melon, blue. You need to take this slide and go out and buy all these and eat them. I mean, it becomes your dessert, your breakfast, your lunch, your supper, you're in between the meal, you graze on fruits and vegetables. And there's ways to make this stuff that we can get people in here that can show you how to make different things out of these that are just absolutely delicious. But it's a new way of eating and thinking. And we've got to get off the fast foods. Every time I hear something new about the fast foods, it's way too much sodium, it's too much saturated fat, there's too much sugar, and they're poisoning you. I mean, what was the name of the book of the guy that did it for a month? He ate at McDonald's for a month. Super size me, right? Yeah. So the food ought to look more like this. Although I have to say, I don't know if I'd eat a dry whole fish. And I'd go easy on the cheese a little bit too. But are all calories equal? See, most doctors still say, well, if you get your 1,500 calories or you go down to a 1,200 calorie diet, you'll be fine. All calories aren't equal. What do you think about this? That's 1,000 calories and that's 1,000 calories. Which one's going to serve you the best? Even if it took you 3 days to eat 300 calories a day of this. Broccoli, by the way, is like right at the top of the pile of things that are incredibly good for you. Some of it's okay. It's good to eat it raw. But I will say this, if you're eating it raw, also, and this is what I do personally, I did it this morning for breakfast. I had a huge salad that had all kinds of vegetables in it, a little bit of turkey in it, that's the only animal thing in it, fish oil, olive oil, coconut oil on it, all mixed up. But then, and it had broccoli and cauliflower and tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchini and everything my wife could find to put in it. But then we'll take that same pile of stuff and put it in a Blend-Tech or a Vitamix with some water and turn it into a smoothie. And we've got something that you can get from Dr. Damien here called Greens First. It's the Great Masquerader. It's all organic powders from vegetables. And it's got stevia and a mint flavor. So you add that to it, and it tastes like, even my grandkids will drink it because it tastes like a sugar drink. So I'm drinking my smoothie while I'm eating a salad made out of the same thing that's in the smoothie. And I tell you right now, you will feel better. And particularly things like broccoli and cauliflower, some of the harder ones need to be pulverized or cooked to get the most nutrition out. There's actually an enzyme in broccoli called myrosinase that's released by chewing. So if you chew it enough, or if you steam it, then it softens up enough, it doesn't matter as much. So I eat raw broccoli, but I also put it in a blender and blenderize it. And we still eat steamed vegetables because things like some of the cruciferous vegetables and tomatoes, like lycopene is apparently released better from cooked tomatoes than it is from eating tomatoes raw. So do both. Blender them, eat them, steam them. So here are some of the lab companies. Dr. Damien works with this one for sure. We may be working with some more of the other ones, but the nice thing about most of these, if you go to the website, they have a lot of information about things on them that can be very helpful. These are the supplement companies. He uses a lot of pure encapsulations. I've been using their products, and we have a lot more on them later on here. But I've started using them in the early 80s and been using them ever since. And the name says it all. They're made without excipients, fillers, colorings, and they're all with veggie caps, except a few things that have to be a gel cap. But all these are good companies. They have a tremendous amount of information. Life Extension has some really good products. They're right up in Fort Lauderdale, but I mentioned one of their products later on the slide because they're the only one I know that has vitamin E in all 8 forms. I mean, here comes out a paper in mainstream medicine. Vitamin E causes prostate cancer. You know, well, all they did was they looked at people that were on a study that were still smoking, overweight, and drinking alcohol, one thing or the other, and they were also taking alpha tocopherol, one form of vitamin E, and in part of that group, it appeared that they had more cancer. Well, when you look at all of the things, you realize that, you know, it's like an old surgery teacher of mine used to say, figures lie and liars figure. Depending on your bias and how you look at numbers, you can see different things. But the first thing that hit me right off the bat that nobody said in any of the articles, when you're talking about vitamin E, you're talking about alpha, beta, gamma, delta, tocopherol, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, tocotrienol. There's at least 8 forms of vitamin E. And ideally, you should get them in a balance all at once in a supplement. So Life Extension has that, it's called gamma E. But anyway, there's a lot of information to get from all these companies. By the way, the lecture you're seeing is the same stuff I present to the third-year medical students at the University of Miami. And honestly, you guys probably know more about it than they do. They don't have time to study nutrition. They weren't getting it before we started doing it 2 years ago. And they sit there with blank looks on their face about things they really ought to know about. When I was in Gainesville, I remember doing these lectures for the family practice residency, and one of the chief family practice residents came in and heard me talk about probiotics, and he says, Dr. Smith, what's a probiotic? How many of you, does everybody know? I mean, don't be embarrassed if you don't know, but most of you have heard of the probiotic, beneficial bacteria. Yeah. So setting the stage, half the population is deficient. This is like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and I'm sure it hasn't changed that much. But over the half the population is deficient in all these vitamins and these minerals. We got 3 or 4 of these, we'll go through them quick. 30 to 80% are low in vitamin D. 80% low in vitamin D. Vitamin D is the absolute master balancing vitamin for your immune system. It'll balance anything. And if you don't do anything else after getting out of here tonight, make sure you know how and where to get a vitamin D and what to do about it.
You know, one thing misnomer, and a lot of patients are relying on their practitioners for that, and what I'm seeing is very low doses prescribed with patients with deficiencies in the neighborhood of 2,000. And I tell people all the time that that's not nearly enough to get fudged at.
Yeah, most people need 5,000. And actually, if you look at even some of the government recommendations that really up it, and particularly with children, like from the day they're born till 12 months, they should get at least 1,000 IUs a day. And then from age 1 up, it's 2,000, maybe by age 5, 6, 7, 8, you can go up to 3, 4, 5,000. The key is though, is whatever you do, after 2 to 3 months, check it and see where you are. And if you've got problems with absorption, it may not work. Nobody gets enough sun. If you're going to get the sun in Miami, you want to get it from 11 in the morning till 2. You say, well, gee, that's the peak of the day, that's when I'll burn. Exactly. But you don't want to be out in it more than 15 or 20 minutes. Make sure you don't get your face or head in it. And the darker your skin, the more olive your skin, the longer you have to stay. Afro-Americans typically need to stay out 4 hours to even begin to get enough. So by and large, most people aren't going to be in the sun 4 hours, so you need something. And the low calcium is the same reason, because low vitamin D causes, vitamin D in its active form is what absorbs calcium in your intestinal tract. So if you got low vitamin D, you're going to have low calcium. This thing about having women take 2,000 milligrams of calcium every day was because they didn't have enough vitamin D. If you got enough vitamin D, they could probably get by with 500 milligrams at most. So here's another, essential nutrient insufficiencies. And these are minerals again, but look at these: heart disease, cancer, respiratory, diabetes, Alzheimer's, disease, hypertension. Look at the ones that are over and over: zinc, selenium, magnesium, zinc, selenium, magnesium, zinc, selenium, zinc. It's just crazy. Nobody has enough of this stuff, and there's a lot of science for why they don't. I don't really need to go. I don't have time to go into it, but just believe me, this is real data from USDA government. So again, look at this, vitamin E, 85% low. Vitamin A, 54% low. Magnesium, 68% low. Like Damien was saying, that's one of the simplest low-lying fruits of all, is to take magnesium regularly, particularly if you have blood pressure, irritability, trouble sleeping, and constipation. That symptom complex ought to be called magnesium deficiency. And you will get it from eating too much meat, too much sugar, too much simple grains, and it makes your blood more acidic, and if you're more acidic, you waste potassium, calcium, magnesium, and a bunch of other stuff through your urine all day long.
Can you take magnesium if you have low blood pressure?
Just start out low, but take something like magnesium glycinate. I got on here earlier, and further on down the line. The magnesium citrate is a good magnesium, but it's definitely a laxative. For people that tend to have the least bit of trouble having a bowel movement, a little bit of mag citrate, and they just straighten out perfectly. People at the other end of the spectrum that take even a slight amount of magnesium citrate gives them diarrhea. What they want is magnesium glycinate. It's better absorbed. Everybody, unless you're eating, and I supplement with magnesium, I still drink a giant smoothie of green and eat the green, because I've got sort of your Ferrari type chemistry. It's like, for 35 years as a surgeon, I mean, I just go all the time. I thought you were a sissy if you need to sleep more than 4 hours. Well, little did I realize I was burning myself out by going that fast. Nobody needs to be that busy. So, as my dad told me, he said, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. So, probably age 18 to 22, college football, University of Florida, under a tremendous amount of stress. 22 to 26, medical school, even way more, double, triple the stress. 26 to 31, surgery residency, not quadruple the stress. And then from 31 until 60, private practice of surgery, constant stress. So I'm just grateful that I'm still here to talk to you people tonight. So I like to call it foundational health, and this is what my patients sort of started educating me back in about 1980 about. And I'm kind of taking that little thing they got off the wall there: sunshine, water, rest and air, exercise, and diet. But I'd also say, they didn't put it in there, elimination is critical, supplements are critical, you need to base the supplements. There are certain supplements I think you can take without doing testing, but if you're going to get real serious about supplementation and you can afford it, you ought to do some tests that Dr. Damien is going to have here that are exquisite for showing you a whole list of markers, biomarkers in the blood and in the urine that really let you know if you're in balance or not. And then stress, which is a big one, is psycho, emotional, spiritual. And this is right at the top of the pile, even though it's the very last one. If you have a strong spiritual connection, you really believe that there's a divine presence that's there and available, all you gotta do is ask. And to the degree you believe it and practice it, you see people with the most god-awful messes survive, some of whom are in this audience. So you can look over that later. And as a matter of fact, the sheet I handed out is just a bunch of short, simple things that you can ask me questions about later. But this is just the simplest of the simpler things that you can do. So basic supplements, I think everybody would do well to take a multivitamin, mineral, antioxidant. Maybe you don't need to do it every day, 3-4 times a week. If you're eating right, sleeping right, eliminating right, if you're traveling, if you're under stress, if you're not eating right, it's Thanksgiving and you know you're going to eat what you shouldn't, drink the wrong stuff. Anytime that you think you need more, add more of that. The omega-3, you can get it from fish oil, you can get some from plants. You don't get enough of the right kind from plants. Right now, the best thing to do is get it from either omega-3 in a liquid form, a gel cap, or enteric caps. The K stands for 1,000, trying to get it all in there. But you want to make sure that the amount of EPA and DHA you get is at least 1,000 to 3,000 of EPA and 1,000 to 2,000 DHA pretty much every day. They are going to show that this is the mother of all anti-inflammatories. And there's a very simple blood test we're going to start doing here called the Omega Quant test. It's a finger stick test. Put the blood on the spot, send it in, get a whole list of Well, I'll show it to you later. That's the cheap, easy way to do it. But a lot of people are not going to be getting enough of this. And if you really want to control inflammation, if you really want to balance your immunity, you get a lot of this. The pre and probiotics. The prebiotics you already saw. The prebiotics is that long list of foods they told you to eat. And particularly things like, if you're okay with it, garlic, onions, artichoke, asparagus. I mean, I get organic asparagus whenever I can get it, put it in a big thing of water, just like with the flowers, leave it in the refrigerator, along with the same thing with a bunch of carrots. I don't know if they grow or not, but they stay fresh that way. And that's what I snack on. And you know, hummus is a nice snack, but try to get away from the crackers and use vegetables, you know, whether you're dipping slices of cucumber or zucchini or asparagus or carrots, all that adds up. And little by little, you will actually notice aches and pains go away, you eliminate better, your energy's better, fat just starts flying off of you, just by not eating grains. And I'm not against grains, but the grains I am against basically are too many processed crackers, cookies, cereals, pastas. The best pasta is probably quinoa, which is a very different kind of a grain. By and large, most people would to do the experiment of no kind of wheat or anything with gluten in it, no dairy and minimal sugar for a month, and come back and no alcohol for a month. Come back and tell me you haven't lost 10 pounds and don't feel better. It's an automatic. It works that easy.
Excuse me, are chia seeds?
Chia seeds are excellent. The one thing about chia, who hasn't heard about chia seeds? Let me see the hands. Everybody couldn't heard about chia seeds. Well, chia is an incredible seed from Mexico or somewhere in Central America. It's 1/3 protein, 1/3 omega-3 fat, and 1/3 fiber. So it's an incredible food, but you need to soak it because it absorbs 15 to 20 times its own weight in water or any water-soluble thing. Like if you did have a cereal or something with almond milk and some sort of whole grain, if you put that in there and you put a tablespoon of chia in there, come back 10 minutes later, the whole thing is solid. It'll just soak it, absorb all of it. And what I like as a good drink is you can take like an organic pomegranate juice or something that's really good for you and put enough chia in there and put it in the refrigerator. It's like eating Jell-O. And if you get a pure pomegranate juice, even though it's got some sugar in it, it's going to get absorbed into all the fiber from the chia. It's just a nice little food.
Is it better than salmon?
Huh?
Does it have more?
No, I don't think it is. Well, it's a matter of how much you eat. I don't know how much to eat. I think it's a very individual thing. You can gradually increase the chia. As you increase it, what's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, your bowel movements, big time. But people want to have larger bowel movements. I did a lot of colon surgery during my career, and I'd ask people, do you have bowel? You go to the bathroom every day? Yeah, I go. I said, do you have bowel movement? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, how much? What do you mean how much? Well, how big? How long? They say, oh, about that much. I said, that's it for the day? Yeah. Well, I'd call that a start, not a finish. You need to have about that much a day, anywhere from 18 to 24 inches. And you will if you really increase the fiber in your diet. And the fiber in your diet makes short-chain fatty acids that feed the lining of your intestinal tract and keep it healthy and happy. So I'm just telling you, that's where eating fruits and vegetables and the right kind of whole grains cooked the right way, you will get enough fiber and chia. That's how you get your fiber. So pre and probiotics, there's a lot of those out there. We'll show you one a little bit later. Vitamin D, we mentioned anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 a day. But if you're starting doing it and you're not testing first, I'd say start out with 5,000 to 7,000, and at the end of a month, have them check your blood level. The heavier you are, the more you need to take because it gets stored in fat. Remember that. Vitamin C, pretty much everybody ought to take at least 500 to 2,000 a day, just because we cannot eat enough fruits and vegetables to get enough vitamin C, and we don't really make it. We used to, but we gave it up for Ice Age, thousands of years ago. Although ironically, in the human genome, there are a few people that still have glucono-lactone oxidase and can make small amounts of vitamin C. But it's extremely rare and it wouldn't be something to count on. The magnesium glycinate we talked about is good for blood pressure, bowel regulation, mood, sleep, all that stuff. And these two, phosphatidylcholine, you get choline in eggs. I think a few eggs, organic eggs, are okay as long as you're not sensitive to them. I put eggs, we usually just poach eggs and then mix them with a salad. Everything's mixed with a salad, whether it's turkey, eggs, fish, whatever, always giant bowl of salad with protein on top. We don't need anywhere near as much protein as we think we do. It's just been proven over and over. That being said, the amount by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Institute of Medicine says 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you're a 70-kilogram man, that's 56 grams of protein. If you're exercising, you probably can go up to 80, even 100, depending. But you got to make sure that the more protein you eat, the more water you drink, because it does tend to acidify your body. Acetyl-L-carnitine is something that's found mainly in meat. You can give it as a supplement, but it also helps move fats in your mitochondria into your energy cycle, so it's critical for energy. If you don't have these supplements, you can certainly get them for you. So we're going to talk about a few different specific things. I mentioned low zinc. Zinc probably killed. The major way senior citizens die is pneumonia. The major reason people get pneumonia is low zinc. You don't have to be a senior citizen. I've seen people in their 20s die of pneumonia that they can't get over. And it's about not having enough zinc. So this came from Boston University and Department of Nutrition, Harvard School of Public Health. It's about 5 years old. So zinc status, new risk for pneumonia in the elderly. So look at these two groups. Now this is just measuring the serum zinc, but you're going to find out when I'm talking about just drawing a blood serum, that's telling you what's going on right now in your body, and maybe it's been going on for 24 hours. It does not give you a big picture of how long you've been deficient in something. You have to look at red blood cells and white blood cells to get the big picture of how long you've been deficient in something. So here though, this group of people, you need to have at least 70 micrograms per deciliter of zinc in order to be healthy. So those that were over 70 micrograms, this was their incidence of pneumonia, duration of pneumonia, antibiotic prescriptions, duration of antibiotic use, and death. Look at the ones that were under 70. Almost twice the incidence of pneumonia. The duration was twice. Prescriptions was almost twice. Antibiotics was almost twice. And overall death was not quite twice, but just from something as simple as zinc. And it's easy to lose zinc because zinc gets knocked out of your cells by mercury, and we're all exposed to mercury. And if we've got a lot of mercury fillings, you need to think about getting those out at some point because they outgas mercury. And mercury will go into the cells, knock the zinc and copper out, and mercury and cadmium will sit there, and it's just like a counterfeit molecule, and it'll cause you to be low in zinc and selenium, actually. This is Genova Diagnostics. I mentioned that's their website, gdx.net. You can go on as a guest, look at the diagnostic tests. They've got incredible tests in there. But nutrition affects so many different aspects of your health, all these things. I mean, all the kids with ADD, ADHD, it's too much grains, too much sugar, period, case closed. Get off of grains, get off of sugar, get on the vegetables, and watch them calm down. And then all the autoimmune, depression, eczema, fatigue, heart disease, all this stuff, depression, fatigue, periodontal disease, the gums, all this stuff is tied into nutrition. So lab testing can assist with nutritional status, and that's what Dr. Damien wants to start doing. And here's one that is like the mother of all of them. It's called NutriVal stands for Nutritional Evaluation with the First Morning Void of Urine. They can do just the first morning void, which is easier. You don't have to do blood, but there's a lot of tests you're missing. It's also quite a bit cheaper. But the company, Genova, if you've got insurance, your out-of-pocket cost for this, the big one, is like $169, and it's over 120 tests. So it's an amazing thing to look at and see where you're at. And you may pick up, just like he said, pick up something really early before it gets late. I always like to use the analogy of termites. You know, you got a house with termites in it, you know, you see a couple of these little flying things, you call it, and they come in and say, well, there's a little here in the corner. Well, you don't think about it, or you don't do anything about it, and then next thing you know, a ceiling caves in, and it's like, oh my God, you know, we should have done something about it earlier, right? Well, that's the same thing with doing nutritional testing. So it provides a framework for the core nutrients of 5 areas: antioxidant status, B vitamins, digestive support, essential fatty acids and minerals. And in this test, the amino acids are measured in a first morning urine collection. And so they do blood, you collect the urine. These are the names of some of these things. I mean, I can't even hardly pronounce them. Don't expect you to. The report comes back as 38 pages. And they used to save the best 2 pages to last. And they finally smartened up and said, no, put the last 2 pages first. And this is what the pages that you want at the first are. I'll come back to that. This is really the first one. This is a 27-year-old female with depression. They did all that 120 tests with all those long, weird names, and they come out, here's the overview. Normal, borderline, high need. So you were normal in these. You were borderline in vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, riboflavin, niacin, B6, magnesium, molybdenum, zinc, which means you need supplements in these. And the high need is vitamin C, you need at least this much, lipoic acid that much, folic acid, B12 this much. So they're literally telling you that. And then page 2 looks like this. They've added all those 2 together, and they're saying, well, this is what we think you need, but they're politically correct, so they put over here provider daily recommendations, so the doctors, and I might obviously say 1,000 to start. I'd rather see you on 3,000 or 5,000 of vitamin C. So it comes back like that. The doctor can sit down and look at this. There are labs or supplement companies, I didn't put it on here, Metabolic Maintenance in Sisters, Oregon, where you can send this directly to them, and they'll make a supplement based exactly on what you need. Now, that's one way to do it, but some of the supplements we have from Pure Encapsulations cover all this and more, and it's probably cheaper to do it that way. But depending on how sick you are, you need to look at both and see what's the best way to go with that. But then you bypass 28 pages of biochemistry. Now, I'm going to go back to one of those pages, though, because this is one of my very favorite, this one. This is what I was telling you about, red blood cell levels of zinc. Now, see, this person, the range is 7.8 to 3.1. Well, they're only 8.1. Well, that's in sort of the normal range, but they are old and they got pneumonia, and they're not getting better because they don't have enough zinc. And guess what? Since these are levels that came out of red blood cells live 3 to 4 months. So whatever that level is in the red blood cell is giving you an indication of how long that you've been deficient and how long you have to replace it. Now, I did stand in surgery for 35 years, so I don't stand that long for anything else. But so forgive me for sitting down, but I'm doing the best I can for my body. But the selenium is another one that was very low there. These 2 are critical in viral illnesses. If you don't want to have a virus, and we've all got them, you can't get rid of them. They're in your body. But if you kept your selenium up here closer to 0.6 and that closer to 12 or 13, those 2 things alone probably would just about keep you from getting a viral illness. It's that critical. So, but the other really important one is the magnesium. That's a reasonable range there. But I have a OBGYN friend who literally delivered 11,000 babies, and I got him interested in this kind of medicine about 10 years ago. And I mean, he's on a big lecture session with hundreds of slides and all this stuff. But he started giving his women a lot of magnesium during pregnancy and making sure that their red blood cell magnesium was up in this range. And when he did that, no more preeclampsia, no more premature deliveries. It's that critical. That simple, that critical. Most doctors will never tell you that because it's just a mineral and you should get it in your diet, except for when you're not able to absorb it in your diet. Now, the other half of this test is looking at the toxic elements, lead, mercury, antimony, arsenic, cadmium, tin. You know, this is pretty good, but this is a little elevated, and this one's definitely elevated, which means in these people where this is elevated, Dr. Damien's got a test you can do where you do a more of a challenge test looking for these heavy metals, and if it comes back really high, then you take something that binds the metals and takes them out in your urine and your bowel. So this is an important thing because we're really exposed to a lot of this now, and it's not getting any better.
Would you suggest glutathione?
Glutathione, yeah, that's, a lot of people aren't gonna know what you're talking about, but glutathione is 3 amino acids hooked together, glutamic acid, cysteine, and glycine, and it binds to heavy metals and takes them out of your body. But the best way to make glutathione is to probably just take N-acetylcysteine, about 1,000 milligrams a day. And then there's so many other ways to detox. Eating a plant-based diet, keeping the beneficial bacteria working right, keeping your bowels working right, sweating a lot, drinking really pure water, all of that is really how you eliminate. Glutathione is one piece of it though. And yeah, if you find out that you got a problem, you can take glutathione, it'll help the gut lining, but you take extra N-acetylcysteine and glycine and glutamine and selenium and zinc to make glutathione, keep binding it and getting it out of your body. But this is the beginning of it, not a...
It's an advanced talk, this is 101.
Yeah, right.
The flyer said 101.
So this is the other part of that nutritional evaluation. They're looking at, and this is part of the blood test, and we'll be able to get a lot of this just out of omega-3, that omega-quant has a lot of this. But basically it's telling you that what's in the red blood cell membranes in terms of these fats, because these fats are so critical for every cell membrane. So why not look at red blood cell membranes, because they're around 3 or 4 months, and you get a snapshot again of how well balanced they are. But this omega-3 index is critical. If it's less than 4, this is down to 2.3, you're not getting enough omega-3 oils in your body. And if you have a heart attack, your likelihood of dying from it goes up about 80%. And you can prevent a fatal heart attack just by getting that number from 2, 3 up to about 6, 7, or 8. You want this ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 to be down in this range, and you want the arachidonic acid, EPA, to be down this range. Out of all this, the most important numbers are probably the EPA, which is really low in this person, and the DHA, which is really low in this person. And look at all these omega-6s that are high. This is probably the girl that was depressed. Anxiety and depression, frustration and irritation has everything in the world to do with your omega-3s. The good ones are low, the bad ones are high, the ratios are upside down. You fix them by taking good, high-quality fish oil. And I tell people, you can probably start getting it here, but Carlson's has a liquid fish oil. In the meantime, you do a vitamin shop. It's lemon flavored. I will literally take a swig of that, hold it in my mouth, and go, hold it there. Your gums are just like your gut lining. They need to be treated. And then after I do that, I'll actually take dental floss or those plackers and push it down between all my teeth. It's the best way in the world to prevent gingivitis. But then you swallow the oil, so then your esophagus gets it directly, your stomach and duodenum get it directly. Some of it still gets the small intestine. When you take the gel capsules, they're not going to dissolve till you get in the small intestine. Now, some of that will get back through your circulation, but you know your whole lining from your mouth to your bottom can absorb stuff. So why not feed all of that, not just depend on intestinal absorption? And I think that way. Most people don't, but it's simple. It's a matter of understanding physiology.
Or putting your salad, like you're talking about getting poured in your salad
Yeah,
as well.
I literally take fish oil in one
Lemon flavor. Some
hand,
people are
olive
like-
oil in the other hand, olive oil, fish oil, and coconut oil in all salads. So, yeah, so that's critical to do this one. Now, that NutriVal also looks at all these different markers in your urine. It can tell what kind of bacteria are growing in your colon by the metabolites these bacteria make that show up in your urine. because they get absorbed in your intestines, they get in the blood, and they show up in the urine. Like here's one, this one, arabinos, being at a high level, means that person has got candida in their small bowel, or maybe their colon. And they may not ever have white plaques on their tongue, they may have never had familial vaginitis or anything, but this is an indicator, well, you may not have it there, but you, from eating sugar and drinking alcohol and being under stress, and being genetically susceptible, they've got it in their intestinal tract, and it causes all kinds of problems. And with age, it gets worse, because it knocks down your immunity, and your immunity gets knocked down with age, and the toxins from candida going through your gut wall will cause it to go slow. It will actually slow your colon motility, and you will literally have more constipation. And you may have trouble getting rid of it unless you take enough magnesium or something to stimulate things to go in the room. Again, looking at neurotransmitters, it lets you know how your brain's responding to all the neurotransmitters it makes, the vitamin markers, the toxin markers we mentioned. So, I mean, it's really quite a test. But it's really important to do these tests because all nutrients and supplements are on a continuum, just like you see here. You surely don't want to be deficient. You don't want to be insufficient. You want to be here or here. But on the other hand, you don't want to be up here. If you, like vitamin D, deficient is less than 10 to 20. Insufficient is less than 30. Sufficient is 30 to 100. Optimal is probably 60 to 80. But everybody's an experiment of one. And if you're going on high dose vitamin D, you need to have a doctor at least talk to you about, you got to measure it more frequently and keep it in range. Toxic's considered over 100, although there are people with brain tumors that I've had on 150 nanograms per milliliter with their brain tumor going away. But I wouldn't be doing that, but we're checking them too for calcium, parathyroid hormone, phosphorus, all the other things that can get screwed up almost every month if you're a really high dose. But by and large, all you need to know is take 5,000 a day, do it a month or two, and then get it checked. You may need to go higher, you may need to back off. The best thing with oral vitamin D is to take it for the biggest meal of the day. The biggest meal of the day ideally ought to be lunch, but for most people it's in the evening. If it's in the evening, try to make it more like 4 or 5 rather than 7 or 8, just because all that metabolism can affect your sleep. But the biggest meal at lunch or early afternoon, late afternoon, but have fat in it. Things like the coconut oil, fish oil, the olive oil, avocado, because it absorbs the vitamin D. And if you didn't do anything but focus on vitamin D and get serious about it, you'd all feel better unless you're already doing it. High dose B vitamins is really in now, big time. This is right out of the American Journal of Medicine from just February of 2013. This Martinez is a prescription drug. It's B12, B6, and folate. But they ramped up the doses to make it a prescription drug. They took people with type 2 diabetes with peripheral neuropathy, which can happen where your toes and your feet get numb and tingly, and put them on this big dose for 6 weeks. 214 patients, it was his article. 24 weeks of treatment rather, with L-methylfolate 3 milligrams, methylcobalamin 2 milligrams. These are like usually in microgram doses, maybe 2,000 micrograms, 2,000 micrograms. P5P is the active form of P6 or placebo. And they proved that these 3 are safe and effective therapy for alleviation of peripheral neuropathy, at least in the short term. So for mainstream medicine to say this about B vitamins, it really opens the door. Nobody can argue that this makes sense. Now, Pure Encapsulations has one called homocysteine factors that Dr. Damien can get here.
We have that in stock.
Yeah, and it's not, it said for the folate, 3 milligrams, 3,000 micrograms, you'd need 4 of these to get the same as that. Actually, two, this is this is a little confusing. I think this is a good maintenance problem, but if you come back with an elevated homocysteine, what you really need to do is start out with this, but you probably need to spike it with a little bit higher dose of these two. This one's okay, this one's great. But the point is, you need to, everybody ought to have a homocysteine blood test. If you're one of the 5 people that genetically do not have your methyl cycle working the right way, this can screw you up so many ways you wouldn't even begin to believe. It's that critical to get the homocysteine blood test.
You once called it the fire and the cholesterol, the smoke, when I recall, as far as when people are having cholesterol issues.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, well,
Homocysteine problems with elevated homocysteine.
yeah, well, homocysteine is vascular toxic. It burns blood vessel linings. Guess what the latest one that just came out? It was in Life Extension magazine, August 2013. It's already early out. Macular degeneration due to elevated homocysteine. Because think about it, the back of your eyeballs are just these microcapillaries that's allowing us to see. And macular degeneration is horrible. It's when people go blind. And it's basically because they got elevated homocysteine. Homocysteine ought to be down around 7 to 8. Up to 10 is probably okay. 10 to 12 is a warning zone to work on it. Over 12, you're a walking, talking case for going blind or having a heart attack or a stroke. And it's a simple blood test. And once you know it, you start working with these vitamins and bingo, you fix it. It's just that simple. So why do we want to take a multivitamin? There's all these people been arguing for years, well, nobody needs to take a multivitamin, all you get is expensive urine. Well, that's a bunch of nonsense. Here, this is in an ICU setting, micronutrient supplementation in critically ill patients possibly being associated with a decrease in mortality by doing micronutrient supplementation. But here's the key, the timing, duration of dosing are key factors for optimal clinical benefit. And you don't get that without doing the testing quickly and then replacing and replenishing as quickly as you can. We're going to have a whole new set of doctors coming out, if nowhere else, out of the University of Miami, because they're getting this. And they're excited about it. Particularly the first years, they're just hopping hot, excited about this stuff.